couple of other quick concepts that we learned in ecology that are frequently tested. First of all, there's only a certain number of individuals in a population that can be supported by an environment. That is the carrying capacity of that environment. There are things that keep the number of individuals limited, and those are limiting factors. And so the organisms that live in an area cannot have too many individuals because they have limited space, they have limited amounts of food, and so forth. And those things keep the population in check. If those fail, we get overpopulation, which is very damaging. The other quick idea that we covered that is in the Regents a lot is succession, not to be confused with evolution. Evolution is the change in a species over time. Succession is the change in a community within one area. So for example, if you have a farm and it's abandoned, the food that the farmer was growing will be replaced by grasses. That is not to say that the food that was growing on the farm becomes extinct. It does not. It also does not give birth to or give rise to the grasses. It's just that they move out and the grasses move in. And then the grasses move out and the bushes move in. And so it is one community replacing another, not evolution of species. The other big thing that we need to review in ecology is the impact of humans on the environment. The most essential, critical thing that we are doing that is impacting the environment is emitting carbon emissions. And those are greenhouse gases that cause the increase in the temperature of the planet, called global warming. It's caused by burning oil, coal, and gas, fossil fuels. And when we do that, it makes carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide goes out in the atmosphere. It allows sunlight energy in, but then traps it when it tries to emanate back out from the planet and traps it as heat. There are things that we can do to reduce global warming. We can use other kinds of energy that do not burn fossil fuels, like solar, wind, and nuclear. None of those produce significant amounts of carbon dioxide, but they do make electricity. So we can use those and then use electric cars and electric heat and be able to replace all of the combustion engines in the cars and the furnaces that would burn oil for heat while using electricity made without emitting carbon dioxide. Another big problem that we have is deforestation, and the cutting down of trees removes habitats for organisms, but it also takes away a big solution for climate change. And that is that plants absorb that extra carbon dioxide that we're putting out. And if you cut down the trees, they no longer are taking in that carbon dioxide. And in fact, if you burn them, which is happening in a lot of forests, you emit the carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere that was trapped in those trees to begin with. Another major problem is acid rain, right? The rain with a very low pH. Remember that acids are those with pH below 7. And we have been putting pollutants out in the atmosphere that combine with the water, and it comes down as acid rain, which is corrosive. It can be damaging to plants and animals and our structures. We have importation. When you import something, you're bringing non-native species into a new area. They're now called invasive species if they can outcompete the native species that live around the area, and they can outcompete the organisms that lived here and drive them to extinction. Big problem. Some other problems that we talked about: ozone depletion. Is when we destroy the layer in the atmosphere that blocks UV radiation. Remember, UV radiation causes mutations in our skin cells, causes skin cancer, and this ozone prevents that UV radiation from coming to as much of it as coming down. And so ozone depletion, that is removal of the ozone layer, has increased levels of skin cancer. We have biomagnification. Unlike energy, which gets reduced with each level of a food chain, poisons that cannot be broken down are all passed along. And they can become more concentrated as you move up the food chain, because if you have a bit in each of 5 bunnies, when the fox eats the 5 bunnies, they're going to have the little bit from each of the bunnies, and now it's more concentrated in the fox. That's called biomagnification. It has real life implications for us, because if we eat meat, we are eating higher up the food chain and more likely to get higher concentrations of poisons. If we eat plants, we have lower concentrations of poisons. And that's the quick review of ecology.